Emotional attachment. We all know that this is the enemy of getting rid of our stuff. I have brought a few things that are examples of the kind of things that I find myself emotionally attached to. This statue, this badge, this toolbox. Now, as I look at this statue, this is something that my father gave me. I love wolves, and he was somewhere and saw this, and it made him think of me, so he picked it up and brought it to me. As I look at this item, I realize that there's really nothing special about this item, except that it was given to me by someone that I love. Now, I have plenty of other things from my father that do have emotional attachment. This wardrobe I'm in front of, for instance, he and I made together. That's very special to me. It's not something that I want to get rid of. But this little statue, yeah, it could go. The badge. This was given to me by my great uncle when I was a little kid. There is a very distinct memory tied to this badge. I remember him giving it to me and one to my brother. Now, not everything that has a distinct memory attached to it should stay, but in this case, the item is small and it makes me happy, so I choose to keep it. The toolbox is actually something that my parents ran across recently. This was made by my grandfather. Now, this box meets all of my criteria for being both beautiful and functional. As a matter of fact, I decided to store things in it that I carry with me on a regular basis and have been doing so for about a year now. I scratch it up, I scuff it up, but it's getting used, and that would make my grandfather happy. So that stays. I can't determine what your criteria are. You have to do that yourself. My criteria are that I want them to be attached to a specific memory that's special. As a general plan, I also aim to keep only those things that are both beautiful and functional. If the function is purely to be beautiful, then I also want it to be things that are handcrafted or created just for me, not things that just anyone could buy in a store. I also want you to consider guilt versus attachment. This can be particularly true of things that were given to you or passed down to you by a deceased relative. Guilt is no reason to keep an item. You don't have to keep it just because it belonged to your great-grandmother. I know this is easier said than done. So how do we ever let go of anything? Number one, consider regifting the item. If it's something nice and you do not have place or space for it anymore, consider giving it to someone who would use it or someone who would enjoy owning it. Now, don't saddle someone else with your guilt. Don't force your sister to take all of the shit that you don't want from your parents. Sometimes it's really useful to take photos of the item. This was particularly helpful for me with toys that I had had since I was a little kid. I didn't really have a place or a space for them or someone special to hand them down to. Some of them were even pretty trashed, but in taking that photo, I could keep the memories attached to them. Another option is to write about it. A lot of times it's not the item itself that we want to keep, it's the memory attached to the item. So if you can take a few moments to sit and write about that memory, that's often better than keeping the item itself. Another option is to keep a portion of the item. Think like your grandmother here. Could you repurpose that into something that would be useful now? But this is a place where you need to be firm with yourself and follow your values, but don't be too hard on yourself either. Sometimes you may have to look at a thing a dozen times before you're ready to get rid of it. Be patient with yourself. I am not going to be hardcore with you on today's assignment. I want you to pick an item that you have an emotional attachment to. Take a picture of it and post it so that we can all see it. And then consider what kind of emotional attachment you have to this item. Is it guilt? Is it memories? What is it? And then think about, if you needed to get rid of it, is there an activity that would allow you to feel better about letting it go? If you choose not to, I'm not going to judge you for that, but I want you to make a conscious choice to keep everything that's in your home.